What does cookie clicker, boring NPC dialogue, the Tech 9 from CS and Diablo have in common? They're all games that force you to destroy your mouse by spam clicking like a madman. Hi, I'm
Kleine babywaterbusje.
But you can just simply call me Amazon, and fortunately I just bought a new one. So let's destroy a mouse today by taking a look at Blizzard's famed Diablo, released in 1996 to critical acclaim on PC and a while after that on Mac and on the PlayStation 1. So why Diablo? Diablo was the ARPG that really established the genre, a real-time action, role-playing game. I can't really say it was the first, just how Doom was preceded by Wolfenstein and so on, but just like Doom, it was the first good one. It's also one of the most important PC games of all time, an evolution of the CRPG with real-time combat and a lot of loot. The loot is especially important, being maybe the one thing Diablo is known for nowadays. Well, that and the crazy hordes of demons. Diablo looks very dated. But there's a real vibe here, something lots of games today lack. The labyrinthian halls of the deep dungeon feel actually scary in a way games strive to but often fail at being. In that way, this world is a feat. Truly. The main village, where we upgrade our gear, looks dark and empty. The church's windows leave a blood-red trail on the ground, and the dungeon itself just feels sinister. This place is great and the world feels like a place, even if the graphics themselves are, again, very dated. These graphics do actually get in the way, but very rarely outside of a few very obvious things. About 5 or so floors down, there's one type of hallway that was just hard to look at. It wasn't clear what things were walls and what things were behind others and stuff like that. It wasn't completely unplayable, but it was certainly very annoying. Downloading an alternate version of the game, I used Devolution X, which fixed some of these problems, but only because it made the context of the world easier to comprehend because of the sharper and less zoomed in visuals. That's another thing. In the original version, you can't really use the zoom button. It's either too close or a pretty good distance away. It wasn't the biggest deal. Again, I played about 2/5 of the game this way, but upgrading was a big step here. The biggest single problem with the visuals though has to be the items. Items in Diablo are a big deal, and not being able to see them when they're dropped on the ground sucked. There are ways to improve this, but the only consistent way to find items in the game is just to wipe areas of the screen with your mouse, like you're trying to wipe a virtual stain off your monitor. It didn't work very well and it wasn't very intuitive. Later games fixed this with a highlight, which is nice. Oh, and the succubi have pixelated boobies, which is pretty funny. This would not be released like it is today. The music here is amazing. It sets the tone very well, and just like the graphics and the overall aesthetic, there isn't much fun and games to be had here. It sounds ominous at best and downright sinister the rest of the time. It's a rather small soundtrack, only 6 songs counting the opening I think, so you will be hearing them over and over, which didn't feel like a problem at all. That's a mark of a great soundtrack right there. Diablo has a very straightforward gameplay loop. Descend through the different levels of hell, sometimes venturing back to the village up top to top up or sell off your stuff. Bars. There are 3 major classes here. The mage uses magic, the rogue uses a bow, and the warrior uses melee weapons. This makes the game very, very replayable. I only played it once with the rogue class, that's the bow class essentially, but I can see where my build could have diverged. In a way it reminds me a bit of a roguelike, but with a lot fewer choices of playstyle, but the same random chance of finding something very, very powerful to carry you throughout the game. I found an item early on through a questline that raised all my stats by some points. That felt very powerful, and I'm sure there are plenty of items like that for all the classes. The combat and dungeoneering essentially boils down to this. Click around the map, saving every few minutes. Open chests and get an item or 2. Open a door and get flooded by 100 skeletons. There's a lot of saving and loading here, or at least that's how I play the game. Enemies do a lot of damage and healing takes a while if you want to conserve health items. The combat essentially just boils down to clicking and keeping a lookout on your health. It's all about not dying here, so bring lots of potions and equip the health spell. There are lots of those actually. Spells, that is, for all the mages out there, but all the classes can also use magic. Sometimes you meet a boss. The first and most memorable one is the Butcher, a scary guy with a big cleaver. Beating this guy took some serious strategy. Sometimes you get attacked from every direction by mages or naked women, so then it's back to just healing though. All of this is essentially done with just mouse 1. This is one of the bigger flaws here. So moving around should have been put on the keyboard, I think. You might hate me for that, but just spamming back and forth just to move and attack at the same time wasn't the best experience. The loot is a highlight here though. Finding a cool piece of equipment, you can't equip it right away. Well, you could, but you have no idea what it actually does. So we need to use a spell on it or let a guy in the village tell us what it does. Sometimes we get a big upgrade and other times it's just garbage. We can alleviate that a bit by buying stuff in the village, but the best stuff, at least in my playthrough, was found in the depths. The gameplay overall works. I don't like parts of it, but I can easily overlook those by focusing on the good here that did work for me. In many ways, Diablo still holds up fairly well. The aesthetic is immaculate all the way throughout. The music, the visuals when we actually see them, and the oppressive nature of the dungeon we're traversing is just great. There's lots to love here if you're one to get immersed in a world. But there are some glaring problems here too. The game is old. Who could have guessed? And items are hard to find on the floor. The walls are hard to read sometimes, and the hitboxes could be better. There are ways to fix some of these problems with a mod, patched or modernized port like Devolution X, but the overall gameplay loop can't really be fixed without transforming it into a whole new game. And that's what Diablo 2 is for after all. The endless clicking and the awkward mouse movement work fine, but aren't something I crave for in other games. But is this game worth playing? Yes. I'd say it is, and unlike most of the others in this series, I also think you should actually play this one to completion. It's a short game, only took me around 9 hours my first time through, and I had lots of fun. Finally beating the big demon guy was pretty cool. Sorry, spoilers. Go play it, it's on GOG for cheap or other places with better visuals for pirate money. Oh, and before I go, do you know what Diablo says when you finally meet him? Okay, so that was totally unintelligible. Like most demons though, he just speaks in reverse. Here it is translated so our small human brains can understand it. Eat your vegetables and brush after every meal. Maybe he wasn't so bad after all. Thanks for watching. This was a very quick and fast little video I made just because I felt like I needed to put something out there. Work on the crosscode video is still well underway. I just finished the main game and I'm contemplating whether I should even cover the DLC or not. I'm going to play it, I never have before, but the video is already pretty big and the DLC would kind of just fuck with the flow. I might regret saying this in a few days when I play and write about it, but yeah. The script is about 1600 words right now, with about 90% of the game being talked about. I should be finished with the script sooner rather than later, but no promises. Keep a lookout on the Patreon. Thanks for subbing on there, by the way, because there will be another poll on there soon for the next big video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon.